was going to say one of the things about the show, the Toilet Paper Diaries, for people who are saying it's a great name. Is it the reason that I think it is? Well, because the coronavirus, if anything, has brought out the very best and worst out of people. But one thing that will never go away is the currency of toilet paper, which beforehand was always useful. And if you ever got caught short, then you knew that you needed to, or you were going to lose a sock. But we never realized it was going to be worth quite so much.
That is correct. Right now, it is a form of payment in some websites. So I think it's just very accurate to our name. But anyway, let's just get the show started. And I think it is crazy. And I think it's important that we start talking about the news cycle. And in this crazy news cycle, we got yesterday. I mean, I woke up to the news that Russia had actually released 500 lions to make sure that nobody was in the street. And then that was actually made it even more crazy because Lord Sugar actually posted this in their Twitter account. And this is one of those things which is very important that we understand that, right now it's not the time to start spreading fake news, even if you think it's funny, because, yeah, of course, those news are funny. But later on, a lot of people actually believe that they were these lions were released in Russia. So we have to be very careful in what we are spreading.
Can I just wind that back? So Alan Sugar and whoever it is was showing footage of lions walking around in Moscow, which they claimed that Vladimir Putin had released to enforce the curfew of making people stay inside. Now, first of all, it would work for me. I would happily stay inside. I would maybe even feed my dogs if these things came to my house. I'm joking, I wouldn't really. But as you say, the thing about fake news is once you've said a story and it's got the headlines, once it's retracted, it never gets as many headlines. So stories stick. That's why all the celebrities are worried about the things that come out, because clearly, I mean, I won't mention any particular stories because there's millions of them. Some of them stick even when they're not true, and they end up becoming huge lawsuits with hundreds of millions of dollars changing hands because it can end somebody's career by doing stuff like that. So it's unfortunately a currency that's just the sign of our times right now.
Well, that's the danger about memes. I mean, sometimes those memes and those things that we think are funny, if they're not put into perspective, I mean, we get to believe them, or I mean, not me particularly, or possibly not you particularly, but people get to think it's actually true. So we have to be careful. I mean, later on, for example, I saw this in the news, and this is actually real news, which I think it's absolutely hilarious. Belgium health minister puts ban on non-essential sexual activities for persons 3 or greater in the indoor areas. This is actually real news.
That's fantastic. We've got to move to Belgium. Well, not now. Obviously, we've stopped everything. So this is the person, and I'm not going to go down that route, who somehow has put a stop to all the fun. The question I have to ask, because I can't stop myself, is how often was she invited to take part? Because I don't think it's above any, ever. But I don't want to say anything that sounds terrible. So it makes sense because no gatherings of more than 3 people. Keeping a distance obviously makes sense. 6 foot I've never encountered. And I don't know how we easily talk about this without getting arrested at the same time.
That is correct.
So there you go. But Belgium, I'm sorry if we've ruined all your fun, but you knew it was coming. I just said that, didn't I?
Yeah. But then, in the other hand, and I think this is just an important thing that we need to cover, because right now in where we are, we're getting the fake news, but also we're getting people as reporters, which is actually one of the things that we're going to be including here in the Toilet Paper Diaries. As of tomorrow or the next couple of days, we're going to have also field reporters, and we have already some people lined up so that they can let us know what's going on, because sometimes the news right now, because not all the reporters and not everybody can actually work, we are somehow relying also on people to find out what's going on. See, for example, we got this picture of the army trucks actually getting into Manhattan. And later on, which I also found incredibly interesting, this was also a video that was playing.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say about the military. The military, and this is true for all militaries, they're trained to a level where they get the job done, and they do it with, of course, military precision. So one of the things that they do very well is medical, and when there's a tragedy. So when you had the hurricanes wiping out and creating havoc everywhere, the military are the first people to be brought in because they set up supply lines. They're able to address problems straight away. They got trained decision makers who have teams who can go out and get things done. So when you've got a problem from the military point of view or the medical point of view or a supply point of view, or even just policing people properly, then it makes sense to get the military in. This is not about denying people's rights. What has to happen is your rights have to be withdrawn because of the fact that it's quite clear in many countries that we're going to have a big challenge that's going to get worse unless they do clamp down on people in the streets, they do look after people who are starting to get ill, and they do make sure that we can break that curve. So, yeah, I think it's a good thing for it to happen, and I think it's a good thing for it to happen in many other countries. I mean, New York City is saying that there's a danger of 40 to 80% of the population becoming tested positive. And of course, that means that you're only looking at herd immunity. The survivors will be will be naturally immune. But do you want to drive that? And I mean, how many people live in New York City? Tens of millions. So it's a really scary thought. So if you are going to clamp down and you are going to try and starve the pandemic of oxygen, then you do want to make sure that you've got the right team in place. And I know the governors in the US have been given the job of basically looking after their own regions. And so getting the military to work with them and the National Guard does make a lot of sense. And I think they're a little bit more reliable than lions.
Absolutely. And I think this is a paradox because most people do not really understand how pandemics work. And that's why I would like to actually show this clip, which will explains perfectly how do pandemics work.
On day one, no one you know is sick. It feels like a normal day. It may stay like this for a long time until one day a few people you know are sick. And suddenly a few days later, it will seem like everyone is sick, and it will feel like it happened instantly. Everything looks fine until it isn't fine. This is the paradox of pandemics, and it's why with an outbreak like COVID-19, you hear health officials calling for huge, drastic, and rapid responses in the early days when infection numbers are still relatively small. Some people worry that these actions are overreactions. Sports teams playing to empty stadiums or not playing at all, canceling huge gatherings and festivals, temporarily closing schools and offices, telling people to avoid personal contact. Media sensationalism. But this way of thinking fails to appreciate how disease outbreaks work. It was really never fine to begin with, but we don't notice until it's too late. Hey smart people, Joe here. How bad will the coronavirus outbreak get? That's what we all want to know, and the answer is in one of these curves. This is what a rapid global pandemic looks like. Little to nothing to slow the number of new infections means a lot of people sick in a short amount of time. A slower global pandemic looks like this. The rate of new cases is lowered and they're spread out over a longer period of time. And which one of these paths that we end up on is important because of this line. It represents the capacity of our healthcare system, the number of beds, doctors, respirators, and everything else. What experts fear is a sudden explosion like this, overwhelming this capacity. And what's really interesting here is that even if these two curves represent the same total number of people that eventually get infected, in the rapid outbreak scenario, more people will die because there won't be enough hospital beds or ventilators to keep them alive. This is a strange idea, that even if the same number of people eventually get sick in the end, even without a vaccine or a cure, taking drastic action before we see things get bad, that will save lives all on its own. What we're doing isn't overreacting. It's exactly what the science of epidemics tells us will work. And that's counterintuitive, because our intuition doesn't really get exponential growth.
And that is exactly what you need to understand. I mean, exponential growth is very important, and we're going to actually be bringing the topic of exponential growth tomorrow, so that you can see it. I mean, we have a very nice video explaining how it all works with lily pads, and it's a very, very nice video. It's actually the second part of this video, but you know, it's absolutely critical that we understand that we are not overreacting. For all those people. Now, more and more, we are bringing that consciousness, not only ourselves, but I mean, everybody, which is saying, well, you know, this is really very important. We have to stay at home. And right now, I think we're going to get into a phase where there's going to be a lot more strength into the lockdown. So we're getting to see the military arriving to New York. Right now, more and more cities are getting everything closed. Right now, the restaurants are closed, the bars are closed. The parks even are closed, because what I was seeing yesterday in the Netherlands and in Mexico, they were still, you know, people say, well, you know, I at least want to go to the park. So everybody goes to the park, and then it has the same effect. So right now, parks are also closed. So Dave, what you had also an experience there in Dubai. So possibly you can tell us a little bit about what happened today in Dubai.
Yeah, I mean, the government of Dubai are very smart. They always make sure that they look at the bigger picture, and they treat all the expats and the nationals equally. So today the rules came out about the fact that they're going to be closing all the shopping malls. Many people are still treating it like a pastime and a place to gather. They've closed all the restaurants for some time, all the parks. They've limited all the events, and schools were closed a long time ago. But they're very smart. They're going to keep the grocers' shops, the supermarkets, and the pharmacies still open. So, and of course, the hospitals. So thank goodness for all the wonderful people that work so hard to keep these places full of food. They're encouraging people to order in. So there's a shortage of people who are riding on motorbikes to deliver stuff. So there's lots of jobs going in that particular part of the world, and to order food in as well. So I popped out to Carrefour with Maya, my daughter, and we popped twice actually. We popped in earlier just to get some more groceries, and then I realized that we hadn't bought anything for the dogs. So we came back later on. It's around about 4 o'clock or so. And as you can see, it starts to get quite busy. So have a look at this.
Hi, this is Dave Crane, and here we are in Carrefour in Dubai, and it's packed out because they're going to close the malls in 2 days. I've got my gorgeous daughter Maya. Hello. And we only came out for some dog food, and as far as I'm concerned, the dogs can go and get jobs. When have they ever paid for their own food? It's ridiculous. So
look what we got.
Reese's Puffs, because my daughter really needs to lose weight, and clearly that's not going to help. So anyway, stay safe. I'm going home as soon as I can. Gonna have a good scrub down, and I'll watch some box sets on telly.
We're going home in an hour.
When we finally get served. All right, say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, well, this is exactly what we're going to be doing from now on. We're also going to have our own field reporters. We want to see not only what's happening in our places, but we're going to have field reporters in the Netherlands. We're going to have field reporters in Mexico, in the UK, in Dubai. And we want to see what's going on in every city in a real way. So this is going to be always a real information. Right, Dave?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very important that we do know what's going on. I mean, and the point of view is to help everybody. I mean, there's enough doom and gloom, and there's enough terrible stuff going on about it. And it can drive people to horrible anxiety and paranoia. And if you spend too long, I mean, we have to, for the show, keeping an eye on the news so we can share as much content that helps people as possible. You can end up being so obsessed with it. I'm just putting my ear thing in, by the way. That's why I keep touching my ear. I'm not scratching it. You can become quite obsessed with the world is falling to bits. But one of the things that's very interesting is when you look at the comments that are made by scientists, they never tell you definites. They say, so it could be this and it could be that, but we haven't looked at the figures yet. And we're looking at what could possibly be the thing. They don't say anything about the fact that things could change and could get better. It's always the news people that drive the paranoia. So it's going to be it's going to have the right kind of flavor for people watching and paying attention. And of course, with this show, the Toilet Paper Diaries will be as honest as we can do. One thing that was interesting that I saw yesterday, and it's a terrible fact that in Italy, they've had the worst day of any place in the world. 627 people passed away as a direct result of the coronavirus. And China, because it's kind of got over its hump, and it's now able to send out experts around the world to help, sent a number of people to Milan, which is one of the worst trouble spots of people who have been who passed as a direct result of the coronavirus. And they couldn't believe their eyes. They were saying that there's people sitting in restaurants, sitting in cafes, walking around, shopping, chatting, public transport, doing all this stuff. Now, they've been told not to do it, but you know what? We're okay. And they're clearly not okay. So this makes a massive difference. I watched a report earlier from a colleague on radio, a guy called Chris Fade, and he was giving a report about in South Korea, there was a lady who had a car accident. She was okay. She went to the hospital, got checked out. There was nothing terrible, but they did notice she had a bit of a temperature. They said, could you just hang around because we'll just check your temperature's okay. She said, no, I'm fine. I'm going to go. So she left. Then she went to church. She was in church. And then a week later, she went to church again. And in between that, she went to brunch with a couple of friends. And then she started getting sick, and she came and she was positive. Now, they've traced back the people that she connected with in the church. She infected everybody, 1,200 people in the church, both times. The brunch, same thing. And she was responsible for about, I think it's something like 2/3 of the population catching the coronavirus in South Korea, which if she'd been stopped earlier, I'm not saying somebody else wouldn't have sent it and it would have taken longer to get there, but if she'd hung around and been tested and taken herself off the grid earlier, rather than walking around infected and passing it on, then South Korea would have had a very different situation. So that's why when we talk about different places and people are going, you know what, I'm going to go out. Yesterday we showed pictures of people in Florida saying it's a spring break, we're going to party. It's bad for you, it's bad for everybody, and there's no age limit on it now. A lot of younger people now are catching it. A lot of younger people are suffering the same thing. And from a description that was given by somebody I was watching who had coronavirus, who's being interviewed on the news, it's like your lungs are full of crystals. Yeah. That's what they're saying. Your breathing's difficult because your lungs are full of crystals.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting how we're trying to adapt this show. We're trying to make it, possibly you notice, we're trying to make it as much as possible as a real TV show, as a real live TV show. Because we want to first of all, I think the news cycle is actually absolutely critical. It's not about providing content as possibly other people will do. Our idea is to be able to help the community, and I think it's super important that you join our community in bit.ly. So that's bit.ly give me paper. This is a business community more than anything. It is for speakers, it is for entrepreneurs, it is for experts, but it's also for anybody that right now is working from home. We are in a situation, as we were saying, yes, it's bad. We don't want to only be showing bad things or all the stuff. We want to make it a lighthearted show. But of course, we want to bring you up to date with what it is alternative television. This is the way that I would actually mention it. And just before we finish our show, there's a couple of things that we still want to cover. So first of all, we want to talk about some business ideas in what you can do right now that you are in quarantine, right now that we're staying home. We're really encouraging everybody to stay from home. Whoever can stay from home, and whoever cannot, we have absolutely tremendous respect for you because you have to be there. But for all of us that we can work from home, I suggest that you stay here at home. But anyway, Dave, possibly you can talk a little bit about what is the first recommendation, and we're gonna, I think tomorrow, the day after, we're gonna be covering all these business recommendations of what you can do. But there's one recommendation in preparation for that, so you can tell them about that.
Yeah, Ernesto. we're going to be going over in the next couple of days or the next couple of shows different areas of tips and techniques that can use to start your business going again, and even look at new areas of business, because it's very important for us to share that with people. But the first thing is, I would use the opportunity to go back through your social media profile. Have a look at the ones that you want to connect with people on, and look at whether they're actually useful for you to be able to drive business towards you. I can see there you've got your social media profile from, is that Facebook or LinkedIn? LinkedIn. And what it is that you offer them. I see you've changed your title there as well, Ernesto.
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, if I'm gonna take ourselves both out of the. Yeah, I cannot get myself up. But anyway, if you actually search for me in LinkedIn, you are going to see in my profile that, for example, instead of saying, well, I am an executive producer of whatever, I am whatever I had there before. Right now, I said, are you a speaker and all your speaking gigs got canceled? Contact me. I'll help you. I'll help you and let you know what you're doing. I mean, right now, what I am doing is I am helping speakers and experts, let them know that not to jump in the creating courses bandwagon and saying, well, I'm going to start to do everything online. That's not the way to do it. So that's exactly what I am doing, and that's why by simply changing your social media profiles, you're going to have a great start. Right, Dave?
I believe so as well, yes. And I mean, if you have a look at mine, I don't know if you've got mine handy. It's funny if you don't. Make sure you connect with myself and Ernesto, by the way, on LinkedIn and on other social media profiles as well. I do quite a lot on Instagram. I know you do as well, and Facebook and Twitter too. And it's important that when people do find you, because at some point you're going to start connecting with people and wanting to spark up the business, whether it's looking at your own followers, your own friends, your own fans, your existing clients, or prospective new ones. First thing that anybody looks at anyway is your profile. Generally, it's Instagram or Facebook combined with LinkedIn. And you make a decision whether you want to work with somebody or not based on that. And often people just put their CV there and then make it look like this is all the stuff I've done, like somebody's going to offer them a job, which is fine if you're looking for a job. But if you want to be in business and you want to be taken seriously, then you have to do it slightly differently. And what I would do, is I'd make sure that people can find what it is that they get from interaction with you straight away. Don't mess about. Don't give them hard work, because they've got plenty of other options, like the 600 million people or so that are already on LinkedIn. So I would spend some time going through your profile. Connect with us. If you need a hand with it, then make sure you let us know and we'll help you where you can. But by all means, go through, see what we do, and copy the elements, because I'm sure that you'll find that interaction with other people and the potential of turning it into business will come a lot easier if you haven't actually gone through with your LinkedIn profile and made it effective.
Correct. And make sure to join our community. Right now, it's very small. We decided to grow it organically. We're not inviting people like crazy. So if you're watching the show, make sure to go there. If you don't see much content, it's fine. We're just basically getting started in this. This is something that we didn't know 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago that we were going to be doing this. But we are showing you that we're stepping up, that we're actually showing you the leadership, that we can help you, and we want to make sure that we navigate together this experience that we have never had in our lives. Anyway, we are running out of time. Dave promised that he was going to be doing the fitness challenge, which I'm very happy that we didn't have time for, because I have a very nice meal after this. So I think that has to be postponed for tomorrow.
Are we going to postpone it again? That's pathetic. Okay, let's postpone it.
For 1 day.
For 1 day only. Okay, it's you versus me.
I have to have my very, very nice dinner, because today is Nina's birthday. Today's the 11th birthday of my daughter Nina. So we're going to have
gorgeous Nina.
So I'm very happy that we're actually not having the fitness challenge. But anyway, I pass it up to you, Dave. I know that you have some answers for the questions that we posted yesterday, and also you have a new interesting question posting before we go into closing the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We asked a question yesterday about which TV show would you binge on now that you have the time to be able to do it. A lot of interesting things coming up from people who are big fans of stuff that's going on Netflix. People saying we're going through Star Trek. One of my favorites is The Kingdom, which is all about zombies in ancient China. Yes, I know. I'm a Walking Dead fan, and sometimes I just go watch this stuff. And vampires, and I'm actually going to get into Stranger Things, which I never had a chance to look at properly. And when I have time in between not doing the show and other things, that's what I'm going to do. But you actually you don't watch much TV, but you've got a chance to do it. So what are you going to watch, Ernesto?
I'm actually rewatching The Sopranos, which was one of my favorite shows of all times. I am right now in episode 8, and definitely I missed James Gandolfini. I think he's a fantastic actor. And right now I'm also starting to watch the new season of Narcos Mexico. So that's what I'm watching right now.
Thank you. Yes, the question for today, and we'd love you to answer it and leave all the details for us so we can bring it up for tomorrow, is which social media platform before the quarantine economy brings you the most business? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Instagram? Is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Is it TikTok? We'd like to know. So make sure you give us your opinion of it, and we'll be able to share those details on that survey with everybody tomorrow. Meanwhile, on behalf of myself, Dave Crane in Dubai, and Ernesto over in Houston, have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you tomorrow for another episode of the Toilet Paper Diaries.